Welcome to the CISSP Cyber Training Podcast, where we provide you the training and tools you need to pass the CISSP exam the first time. Hi, my name is Sean Gerber, and I'm your host for this action-packed, informative podcast. Join me each week as I provide the information you need to pass the CISSP exam and grow your cybersecurity knowledge. All right, let's get started. Hey, all, Sean Gerber with CISSP Cyber Training, and hope you all are having a beautifully blessed day today. Hope you're having a wonderful week, and that it's just getting started, and that you had a wonderful weekend. I was talking to some friends out of Chicago, and they had the Taste of Chicago this weekend. That was, I think that sounds like a lot of fun. So if you're in the Chicago area, I'm sure you all had a chance to go maybe do that. But that was, talking to the gentleman that I was visiting with, sounded like a great opportunity. We just got back from the Ozarks, so just the small little area about 4 hours from Wichita. Very nice, very beautiful, and my wife and I were going down there just to kind of check things out and see if it's a place we want to be in the future. But you are not here to hear about the Ozarks or about Taste of Chicago in Chicago. You are here for CISSP questions. So today we're going to be getting over Domain 8.5. This is a follow-on to what came out on Monday, the podcast for Monday, and that was over 8.5 itself. So we are going to get into these specific questions. If you're not familiar, these questions, there's 15 questions. These are not going to be one-for-one questions that you will see on the CISSP. I can pretty much guarantee you that. They will be representations potentially, i.e. air quotes, potentially, of some of the questions you may encounter. But at the end of the day, the questions that we're giving you are not designed to be the one-for-one to kind of help you memorize it and then move on. The goal is to understand the actual question and then what is the context of the data that's there so that when you see the question or similar type question on the CISSP, you kind of have an understanding of how to answer that overall question. So let us get started. Enough of the monologue. So question 1. Which of the following is not a common API attack? Now, this is a tricky one. Which one is not a common type of API attack? A, SQL injection. B, cross-site scripting. C, API key theft. Or D, denial of service. Now, all of those can affect APIs, but the one that's not a common type of API attack is the denial of service. That is D. Okay, so D, the denial of service attacks can affect APIs, specifically around one specific API, or it could be multiple APIs, but it is not generally an attack that is targeting specific APIs. Question 2, which is the primary purpose of an API gateway? Which is the primary purpose of an API gateway? A, to protect the APIs from unauthorized access. B, to act as a reverse proxy for APIs. C, to centralize API management and security. Or D, to provide API documentation. So, the primary purpose, again, air quotes, primary purpose of an API gateway is C, to centralize API management and the overall security and analytics that go with it. So it does help protect APIs potentially from unauthorized access, and it does help with, in some situations, like a reverse proxy for APIs. But at the end of the day, the primary purpose of the gateway is to protect is to provide centralized management and to protect the APIs from a security point of view. So that you have a single entry point for your API requests. It does provide features such as rate limiting, authentication, and security policy enforcement. Question 3, which authentication mechanism is commonly used for APIs and involves the exchange of tokens? Again, which authentication mechanism is commonly used for APIs and involves the exchange of tokens? A, basic authentication. B, digest authentication. C, OAuth. Or D, Kerberos. Again, which authentication mechanism is commonly used for APIs and involves the exchange of tokens? We talked about the exchange of tokens and what occurs with that, and that is OAuth, right? OAuth is a popular authorization protocol that uses tokens to grant access to APIs, right? And we talk about how the importance of that is because it's much more flexible than having a static API key. And it's designed to provide delegation of authorization, allowing users to grant third-party applications access, and so forth. So it's great capability. All right. Question 4. Which of the following is the best practice for storing API keys? A, in plain text with applications configuration files. Yeah, no, that's not a good idea. B, insecure key management system. C, as an environmental variables. No. And D, in a database. Yeah, you can do that, but So what is the best practice for storing API keys? I kind of alluded to it, and it is B, secure key management system. Obviously, a secure key management system is the best place to store these because that system can encrypt and manage the keys, ensuring they are protected from unauthorized access. Question 5. Which of the following is a security best practice for API design? Which of the following is a security best practice for API design? A, overly permissive access controls. B, lack of error handling. C, input validation, or D, excessive logging. Okay, which is the following security best practice for API design? And the answer is C, input validation, right? So input validation is a crucial security practice for APIs and for pretty much any web form. And it does involve validating and sanitizing user inputs to prevent SQL injection attacks. Now, depending on how you have your API set up, if you do have some sort of connectivity where a user's adding in sort of credentials, input validation is important. If your API connection is really just kind of connection to, server to server type connections, then obviously the input validation may not be the most important thing that you want to consider. Question 6, which of the following is a common API security threat? A, API abuse. B, API key theft. C, API injection attacks, or D, all of the above. Which is a common API security threat? And the answer obviously is D, because abuse, theft, and injection attacks are all common API security threats. So it is all of the above. So each of those can be exploited by attackers. Question 7, what is the purpose of an API rate limiting? Again, what is the purpose of API rate limiting? A, to prevent excessive API usage and mitigate potential DDoS attacks. C, to improve API performance. C, to track API usage and analytics, or D, to enforce API authentication. So what is the purpose of an API rate limiting? And it is A, to prevent excessive API usage and mitigate DDoS attacks. Question 8, which of the following is a security challenge associated with API versioning? Which of the following is a security challenge associated with API versioning? A, difficult to manage API changes. B, increased complexity. C, potentiality for compatibility issues. Or D, all of the above. Which of the following is a security challenge associated with API versioning? And the answer is D, all of the above, right? All of the above are issues that are with dealing with API versioning, such as managing API changes, increased complexity, and potential compatibility issues are all factors that need to be considered when implementing API versioning. And what that basically means is what APIs are you communicating with another API based on a specific version. Adds a lot of complexity, Can be very, very secure depending upon in the situation, but it does add a lot of complexity. What is the primary goal of API testing? A, to identify vulnerabilities in APIs. B, to improve API performance. C, to ensure API compliance, or D, to test API functionality. So what is the primary goal of API security testing? And the answer is A, to identify vulnerabilities in APIs. The primary goal of API testing is to find these vulnerabilities, right? So these can include SQL injections, cross-site scripting, or even the API key theft. But it's important that you do understand the overall testing strategy around your APIs and not just go ahead and have someone who can create APIs and then throw them into production. Which of the following is a security best practice for API documentation? A, includes sensitive information about API implementation. B, make documentation publicly available. C, clearly define access controls and permissions. Or D, avoid using versioning in the documentation. So, which of the following is a security best practice for API documentation? And it would be C. Clearly define the access controls and the specific permissions. That's what needs to be called out in the documentation. If you want people to use it, they need to understand what are the access controls and permissions associated with it, and you need to define those in the documentation you have. Question 11, what is the role of an API gateway in API security? Okay, so what is the role of a API gateway in API security? So we talked about role, we talked about best practice. So now we're going to get into what is the role of API gateways. It enforces security policies and controls. True. It provides API documentation. Yes, it does in the README type areas, right? So you'll see some of the documentation of the API and how to connect and so forth. C, handles API requests and responses, obviously. And then D, all of the above. And the answer is D, of course, right? It handles everything in there. It's a crucial role of this, and it does have all of that capability built into it. Now, it's a role of the API gateway. It's not the best practice when dealing with the gateway. Question 12, which of the following is a common API security threat related to API keys? Okay, so which is a common API security threat related to API keys? A, API key theft. B, API injection attacks. C, API abuse, or D, all of the above. Which is a common API security threat related to API keys? And the answer is A, API key theft. It's a common security threat related to the keys, and they will attempt to steal the keys to gain unauthorized access to the specific APIs, especially if your keys are hard-coded, right? That's not a good idea. Question 13, which of the following is a security best practice for API design? Which of the following is a security best practice for API design? A, use strong encryption for API traffic. B, you avoid using versioning for APIs. C, overly permissive access controls. Or D, lack of error handling. So which of the following is a security best practice for design? And the answer is A, right? So what ended up having all the positives, and then there was 3 negatives. So obviously you found out real quick, going, well, based on the question, it would be A. And you were right. Using a strong encryption is an important factor when dealing with API traffic. It does help protect sensitive data, especially if you're dealing with sensitive information, right? So APIs, in many cases, aren't necessarily encrypted, depending on the data that's being transmitted. But if you are collecting and transmitting sensitive data, such as PHI or something that's maybe financial aspects, you would probably, yes, most likely want encryption enabled. What is the purpose? Question 14, what is the purpose of API logging? A, to track API usage and identify anomalies. B, to improve API performance. C, to provide API documentation. Or D, to enforce API security policies. So what is the purpose of API logging? Well, some of those it does help, right? So as far as performance, it can help improve it. It also can help enforce the API security policies based on the logs that you're able to pull. But in reality, A is to be able to track API usage and identify any potential anomalies is what the real main purpose of API logging is. So it'll help you determine if there's some threats or something that may need to be addressed specifically. Question 15. Which of the following is a security challenge associated with API integration? So again, what is a security challenge associated with API integration? A, compatible data formats. B, lack of standardization. C, security vulnerabilities in third-party APIs. Or D, all of the above. Again, so which of the following is a security challenge associated with API integration? And the answer is D, all of the above. Again, incompatible data formats, lack of standardization, and security vulnerabilities in third-party APIs are security challenges that face API integration. Okay, that is all I have for you today. Head on over to CISSP Cyber Training, and you can get access to all these CISSP questions. They're there in video format. They're also available in test format. You can go take tests. But again, you can go and check out what are some of the products I have available for you at CISSP Cyber Training. If you want mentorship, I've got that. If you want to just study for the test, I've got that. If you want to have both, I've got that too. So all of that is available to you. Also, keep it in mind that all sales that go through CISSP Cyber Training are all tied to our nonprofit for adoptive families. Again, that's what the whole purpose of it is around that. Also, go to reducecyberrisk.com. I've actually got some partnerships with some other IT professionals, and from pen testing to insider risk training to you name it, I can cover it at Reduce Cyber Risk. We are there to kind of provide you a overall carte blanche kind of capability in the reduced or in the cyber space, and using my years of background in understanding both enterprises as well as small and medium-sized businesses, I'm going to bring the right people to bear to help you with your organization. Because again, I know a lot of people that listen to this podcast are IT professionals that have been around for a while, and you probably are looking for some security assistance as you're trying to transition into that potential role yourself. Look to reducecyberrisk.com to help you out in that space. Again, Reduce Cyber Risk or CISSP Cyber Training.com. You can get you the security training you need and the security assistance you need to be successful and to protect you from the evil hacker horde. All right, have a wonderful day, and we will catch you all on the flip side. See ya. Hey, thanks again for listening today. It's been my pleasure to prep you for the CISSP exam. Are you interested, though, in some free CISSP exam questions? Head on over to freecisspquestions.com and sign up to join my email list, and you'll receive access for 60 free CISSP questions each and every month for the next 6 months. That's a total of 360 questions just for signing up with CISSP Cyber Training. You'll also gain access to other free CISSP resources, so just head on over to freecisspquestions.com and sign up, or head on over to CISSPcybertraining.com and sign up today. Have a wonderful day, and we will catch you on the flip side. See ya.